Welcome to Age Potential TV. I'm Lori Campbell, your host, gerontologist, and advocate of your best life, here to introduce you to an emerging trend called Age Potential. Here's to living out your age potential. Laughter has been called the universal language and coined as the best medicine. But can laughter really heal? Stay tuned to hear Jody Ross's perspective on that question. Welcome, Jody.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
You know, it's hard to believe, looking at you now, full of health, vitality, that you had 17 years of your life stricken with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, depression, pain. What was that time in your life like?
It was devastating. I went from being in the corporate world to being homeless and in so much pain. The fibromyalgia pain was widespread. It started very suddenly, and I just became exhausted. And because I wasn't able to do the work that I love to do, I really did get depressed. And then because I wasn't able to exercise, my body started to deteriorate, and I started to develop low back pain similar to what someone much, much older than I would have. So it was a very, very challenging time.
So tell me a little bit about that time. So what brought this all on? How did you proceed through? What kind of, what were you trying during this time to heal?
Well, I definitely had that type A personality. So that created a level of stress in and of itself. I was also very successful, very young, and I was also coming from a background where I had lost my father at a very young age, and so I was really trying to move through the grief of that and then create a life for myself. And I thought that that would be best accomplished by being very successful in the corporate world, but it really took a toll very, very quickly.
So do you feel that it was precipitated by internal stress that you put on yourself?
Stress that I put on myself, stress of my surroundings, stress of deadlines. I was a writer, and so we had many, many deadlines, and so just long, long hours, 60-hour work weeks were common. And then I found that I just wasn't resting enough, and I got into a cycle where I was either working or I was recovering. And I really stopped living, and even at that young age, in my 20s, just realized that I didn't really have much joy at all.
Right. So what kind of treatment were you on at this point in time during this?
I saw every doctor that I could think of, and did everything from vitamin shots. Initially, back then, there really weren't any treatments for fibromyalgia. Mostly, they looked at it as a mental illness. So once my regular doctors, my internists, when they were at the end of their level of expertise, then I started into the mental health system, and that's when things really started to become very depressing, because I was doing all the right things. I was taking the medications they prescribed. I also tried non-traditional things such as acupuncture, vitamins. We were looking at different other diseases that could be part of this whole picture. And while I would do what they said, and I would feel like I was making some progress, I was never really able to break through and actually start to enjoy my life, because I had begun to see my life as a problem that needed to be solved, and that a project that I needed to put my attention on. And I forgot how to just relax and breathe and enjoy life.
Sure. And you shared with me earlier that it wasn't until you came upon laughter yoga did it ever occur to you that there may be a chance of you healing. Where did you hear about laughter yoga, and what is laughter yoga, and what is the healing component that you found in this modality?
Well, I was at Mayo Clinic seeing a provider for one aspect of this illness, and as I was leaving, I saw a sign that was advertising a talk on laughter. And I thought, that I have some time, I think I'll check that out. So I attended this lecture, and it turned out to be my very first laughter yoga session. So I was in a room full of doctors and nurses and strangers. And what I found was I felt elated for hours later. I had gone to the doctor hoping for another piece of the puzzle for what was bothering me, and I left elated, and not just for the moments that I was there, but for hours later. And that was when I knew I have got to do this as often as I can. When I got back to the Twin Cities, there were no laughter clubs. There was no place where we were doing this. So I decided to get trained and start the very first laughter club here in the Twin Cities.
Wow, that must have been good news for your soul.
It was. And you know, from Rochester, I called a friend of mine who was in his 80s, and I had known him for years, and I said, this is what's going on. I feel so good. And I said, I really want to do this. And he said, you absolutely should do this. I mean, he told me later that he thought I was a little bit crazy, but he'd never heard me so joyful and so excited.
So what do you think the healing component within laughter yoga really, where does that come from? Tell me a little bit about the physiology background of laughter yoga.
Well, laughter, it turns out, has many, many healing aspects, and I like to start with the brain. Laughter increases the dopamine and serotonin in the brain, and these are the neurotransmitters of joy, of relaxation, and often when people, for example, have depression, they will be prescribed medications that actually raise the levels of those neurotransmitters in the brain. So it turns out laughter does that naturally, not only for the 10, 20, 30 minutes that you're laughing, but for hours and sometimes days later. So it's very effective in terms of an antidepressant. It also increases endorphins. I don't know if you're a runner, but anyone, most people have heard about the runner's high. Mm-hmm. Well, the great news for me and many other people who have flat feet is that you do not have to run a marathon in order to experience the runner's high. That is because, as I was saying, these endorphins that we have, our body creates endorphins as soon as we engage the diaphragm. So I just gave myself a blast of endorphins. Endorphins are the body's natural painkiller, more powerful, I've heard more powerful than a morphine drip. And so that provides pain relief. So you can see, as someone who had fibromyalgia and depression, I was immediately treating those things naturally. Mm-hmm. It's our body's own pharmacy. Mm. And those are just two of the examples. When we start really engaging the yoga part of laughter yoga, which is just deep breathing, I want to make that very clear, because many times people hear the word yoga and they think I need special clothing and we're going to be getting down on the floor. And as we age, that isn't always appropriate. It can be a little bit off-putting. This is not that. This is just laughter and breathing. And we know that when we're breathing, we are turning on healing cells in our body. In fact, there are some cells in our body that only become active in the presence of oxygen. So for example, with our soldiers who are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan who have PTSD, they are doing some studies where they're putting these folks into hyperbaric chambers of pure oxygen, and they're seeing those symptoms of the PTSD greatly diminish. So I don't know when that would be available for us by prescription that insurance would pay for, but we don't have to wait for that. We can just engage in laughter and breathing, get the same result. Wonderful,
wonderful. And the beautiful thing about laughter is we get the same benefits if it's forced or natural. Talk about that a little bit.
That's right. We laugh because we're having fun, not because anything is funny. Let's face it, life doesn't give us very many opportunities to laugh. If we're lucky, we might get 4 chuckles in a day. And usually they're not deep belly laughs. Usually they're just ha, 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 you know. And really, to get any benefits at all, we need to have it be a deep belly laugh. And so the great news is we don't have to have a reason to laugh. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need that. You know, it makes sense to turn on Modern Family or a comedy or a movie, and we can get the laughter that way. But we don't have to wait. We can have this now. And so for people who actually have a natural sense of humor, find it very easy to laugh, this practice is very natural. But then there are a lot of people, for example, people who have had heart attacks, it's been shown laugh less often than people who do not have heart disease. And so the studies are showing that if we can increase laughter either through humor or in this case through intention, mm-hmm. that we can reverse some of the signs of cardiac disease.
This is exciting, very exciting. So if a person was to try laughter yoga for the first time, kind of take them through what they would expect if they were coming the first night.
Well, I offer a free laughter club, for example, on Monday evenings here in the Twin Cities. And what we do is a simple warm-up. I explain what laughter yoga is in great detail. And then we do these improvisational exercises. So we might pretend to talk on our cell phone and laugh, ha 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 ha, which we'll get a chance to do that in a little bit. And then we'll alternate those with breathing exercises. So it's just very playful. And though some people might come and find that really awkward, totally understandable, I felt the same way. But when you're in a group and you're all together and you have good eye contact and just enough willingness to be playful, just a little bit of willingness, what starts out as a ha 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 becomes real and very contagious very, very quickly. And for most people, that awkward feeling wears away quite quickly. If it doesn't, it really doesn't matter, because as long as that diaphragm is engaged, you're going to get all the benefits. So it's really, in terms of that, it's the most successful job I've ever had, because you cannot do it wrong.
Fun. Well, can people do this at home? Can they practice laughter yoga at home? And how would they do that?
Absolutely. So I was alluding to the exercise with the cell phone. So some people might feel a little embarrassed about laughing in front of their family. This is kind of it's especially for us here in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities. We don't generally emote in public. Generally, you get to be emotional in public when your child is born or at a wedding, and then that's pretty much it. So this can be difficult. So what we're going to do is just pretend to have our cell phone. And would you join me? I would love it.
Sure.
So we're going to pretend to have our cell phone in our right next to our ear, and we're going to pretend to talk to the funniest person ever. So we take a big deep breath and just
Oh gosh. So how do you know if I was trying to really envision this big deep breath. How do you know if you're doing that deep diaphragm type laughter like you're talking about?
The great news is you don't have to think about it. The laughter circumvents any thinking. So you could put the intention of laughing from your belly.
Right.
Because it turns out we laugh from different parts of our body. We might laugh with our face or our shoulders.
Okay.
But we want to laugh from the belly. So we think about putting it there, and you could even place your hand on your diaphragm.
Sure.
And start there.
Sure.
And the great news is, as soon as you start laughing, you have to take a big deep breath.
Naturally. So that's what the difference is between laughter yoga and regular yoga, would be the breathing and the laughter simultaneously?
Combined.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Most of us in the West have heard about breathing techniques for relaxation.
Yes.
What's hard for a lot of us is that we start to overthink. Is my belly going out when it should go in?
Yep.
Am I doing it correctly? We're trying to be good students. We're trying to be good patients. And we overthink. So the laughter just whammies all that, because you start laughing and then you empty all the air out of your lungs, and then you must take a big deep breath in. And that's really all there is to it.
And so really, you, in your mind, this is what was the catalyst to your healing journey.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I was making lots of good logical effort that was suggested by my physicians, and not really seeing the life results that I wanted to, the quality of life that I wanted to. The laughter went in between all of that logical effort and kind of was like glue that bound it together and really brought it to the next level. So that now I went from being homeless and disabled, and now I have this rich, full life where I laugh with people wherever I go. I'm able, probably most important is I have a happy family life. We laugh together instead of having mom be tired and crabby and hurting. My daughter now has a mom who's joyful, and it really, I think it's been wonderful for my family to get to have the blessing of seeing who I really am. So instead of relating to the illness, now I get to relate to them as Jody, as the Jody that I think I was meant to be.
And like you said, you lead a large group. Matter of fact, this is the largest laughing group in America,
In
right?
the country.
In
Yes,
the country.
yes.
Wow. How many members do you have?
We have, at this time, 610 members, each week we have between 40 and 60 people who come together and we have wonderful weather, we laugh outside for about 40 minutes. So we're laughing, and you can imagine if you've gone to see a comedy and you've laughed maybe 10, 15 times, how great you feel. Imagine having that happen within 30 to 40 minutes. It's the most incredible boost.
Anything, last words of wisdom you'd like to share to somebody who's really more, maybe a little bit more resistant to this type of experience?
I would say as a way of encouragement, simply give it a try. You could start with a simple ha, 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 even if there's nothing funny. Eventually, that builds and becomes a real laugh. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking to connect with that authentic laugh and being willing to go to any length to get there.
And how long did it take you to really go from the forcing or the just intentional to really wholeheartedly laughing? I mean, was it 6 months, a year, days?
For me, it was fairly quick. I couldn't believe that anything like this could be possible. The great news is, even if I'm pretending, my body doesn't know the difference, so that makes it helpful as a leader. But I will say this, after 17 years of trying every medical intervention possible, I started receiving those benefits, long-lasting pain relief, in about 6 months. I don't even remember when my pain went away, because pain calls attention to itself and relaxation doesn't. But I know at the 1 year mark, all of it was gone. And, so people say it took a whole year, and I said, gosh, compared to 17 years of effort, 1 year was nothing.
Seems like a blink.
It was.
What an inspiration. Thank you, Jody, for sharing your courageous story and for being a laughter ambassador. And most importantly, heightening that awareness that we have yet another healing modality to tap into, be it if we're sick or not. Laughter yoga. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Plan on tuning in to the next episode of Age Potential TV as we will explore what it's like to live and age being single. Now go, give laughter yoga a try, and email me, Lori@agepotential.com, with your comments on your experience.